Good evening, I'm Cenk Uygur, the Young Turks, live tonight from Miami, where it's fun. We've got a great show for you tonight, so coming up, we got these stories. The Republicans want more concessions from President Obama in his State of the Union. Come on, dude, really? The president has done plenty to appease conservatives this year, and I'm going to show you a whole list in a second of all the things that he compromised on, and I want to know what he's going to do for progressives. Senator Sherrod Brown and Bob Shrum will join me in just a moment to talk about that. Democrats aren't taking Darrell Iss's investigation of the Obama administration lying down. In the first hearing today, they challenged Chairman Issa, and it got heated. Drama! We'll show you the tape and get reaction from a Democrat who sparred with Issa. That's also coming up. And is it possible that the Bush administration broke the law and got away with it? Shocking. Say it ain't so. Details of the laws that Karl Rove and his political operation allegedly broke using your tax dollars. That's all coming up. But we begin with a big night for President Obama. In just 3 hours, the president is going to give his State of the Union address, one of the big political moments for any president. President Obama, by all accounts, is expected to deliver a, quote, centrist speech. If it was actually centrist, as in the political center of the country, I would love it. I'm afraid it's going to appeal instead to the center of the Washington, D.C. establishment, which is entirely different. In my opinion, all this president ever talks about is compromise. Do the Republicans return the favor? Well, you be the judge. Here's what Minority Leader Mitch McConnell told a group of journalists and political insiders just this morning. Quote, if the president is willing to do what I and my members would do anyway, we're not going to say no. Wow, is he not merciful? If Obama agrees to everything he wants, he will let him. Wow, that's bipartisan compromise. But in the past 2 years, President Obama has already taken so many Republican proposals that their response tonight really ought to be just 4 words. Thank you, President Obama. Now look, let me prove my case to you. Extending tax cuts for the top income bracket will cost the federal government $90 billion over 2 years. President Obama just agreed to that. And when you count the estate tax, the capital gains tax, the dividend tax, the carried interest tax, and the giant tax cuts that were given in all of those categories, well, the rich just got over $400 billion in tax cuts, and the Republicans loved it. Then, of course, there's the $9 trillion in emergency overnight loans the Fed made to the major banks and Wall Street firms between 2008 and May of 2009 for almost no interest. Now, of course, the banks loved that and then promptly gave all their money to the Republican candidates. Then there are the countless other GOP priorities that the president has agreed to implement.
Today, we're announcing the expansion of offshore oil and gas exploration. Today, I'm proposing a 2-year pay freeze for all civilian federal workers.
The president's outlining an executive order, and the president talked in there about regulations in the op-ed that lack common sense.
How'd that oil drilling work out for him? Oh, right, we had the BP disaster afterwards. And how does all those Republican talking points coming from a Democratic president make any sense? And then, of course, there's the stimulus money that the Republicans complained about, but took in droves anyway. Yeah, of course, the famous Republican Governor Chris Christie, who's a hero now among Republicans. For the state of New Jersey, he received $7.2 billion in tax breaks from the stimulus package. Then Minnesota Republican Tim Pawlenty wanted $424 million from the stimulus to prevent a massive cuts in K through 12 education that he would have otherwise, quote, had to make. And then we learned today that Texas Republican Governor Rick Perry used stimulus money to plug, are you getting ready for this? 97% of his budget shortfall. And did we get a thank you note? Did we get anybody saying, hey, Mr. President, thank you so much for that stimulus money. Otherwise, my budget would have been a disaster. Shh. No, we didn't get that thank you note. How about health care reform? Do you know that in the final package, we had 161 Republican amendments that were accepted and incorporated into the reform effort? And you know how many Republican votes we got in favor of the bill anyway? Are you following along? Are you going to be able to guess? Of course, not one Republican in the House or the Senate voted for the final reform bill. And then when it comes to the issue of government-run health care, of the 47 Republican senators and 242 Republican House members currently in Congress, so that would be a total of 289 Republicans in all, 5 have accepted the call to turn down their own government-funded health care coverage. That would be 5. The rest all said government-run health care, when it comes to me, I love it. Gimme, gimme, gimme. Did we get a thank you note? I don't think we did. And how about financial reform? Obama barely laid a glove on the banks. He didn't break up any of the big banks. He didn't put any cap on how much money they could gamble with. He didn't put a cap on it whether they could take it from us, meaning the depositors. There was no cap on leverage. And guess what? The banks are back to record profits while we're sitting near 10% unemployment. And in the third quarter of 2010, American companies, so-called American companies, by the way, they're actually multinationals, had their best profit quarter in history. Did we get a thank you note? I don't think we did. On Wall Street, the Dow is now back up to right around 12,000. Did we get a thank you note? So the Chamber of Commerce, who spent over $70 million trying to defeat Democrats in 2010, should send the president a huge thank you note. The hedge fund managers and the big banks that spent money buying Republicans and defeating Democrats should send the president a huge thank you note. The Republican Party, who got all those concessions and all of those tax cuts, and who called the president a socialist anyway, should just drink a tall glass of shut-up juice and just send a card that reads, "Thank you, Mr. President."